welcome to the BoshNRoll channel. If you want to support my daily Eternal Magic offerings while getting amazing perks like the BoshNRoll Discord community, have me play your deck on the channel, or listen sideboard guides before tournaments, check out the Patreon or YouTube membership program. This channel is possible because of these amazing sponsors. Check them out, all their links are in the video description. As always, thanks for being here. Let's go play some Magic.
Welcome back to the BoshNRoll channel. Today I'm playing Legacy, and I'm doing another playoff versus Andreas Ecobaronen Peterson. He's an Eternal expert and content creator. You can see his side of these matches on his channel. That'll be linked in the video description. Last week, we did a vintage playoff where I played Oath of Druids and he played the other top 5 decks in the metagame against me. This time, I'm the bad guy. Andreas is going to be Dimir Reanimator the entire time, and I'm going to play 4 different decks against him. The first deck we're going to see is Dimir Tempo. This has a lot of the same tools as the Reanimator deck, except it's not trying to assemble A+B, which means it's a little more stable and it's a little less susceptible to hate, but it's less powerful overall. And then I'll be playing Eldrazi for the second match. This is the second best deck in Legacy by the numbers right now. It's a pretty classic aggro prison style ancient tomb deck. It hits like a truck. Post-Lex Command gives us a lot of movement that a deck like this didn't have before, a lot of options, things it can do that provide agency to the game plan rather than just drawing your cards and seeing if your opponent's dead. This one really gives you a lot of choices to make. The One Ring also a powerful thing to cast on turn 2 or 3 and in any deck, and especially a deck that your opponent is just trying to hang on for dear life until you run out of threats. But with a One Ring, you won't run out of threats. This will be our second match. Our third match is going to be Red Prison. This is the list that won Eternal Weekend Asia. Let me just get my Chrome boxes matching here. I can't match the Pyroglyph, sorry. That card's very expensive and weird and hard to find on Magic Online. I do have 4 Magic Chrome boxes, though. This build is primarily just getting the opponent dead. Vexing Bauble is the big innovation that shells are doing now that if you're not super in tune with Legacy might surprise you. There's no Chalice of the Void in this deck. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to turn off your forces and dazes so they can resolve One Rings and Pyroglyphs on you and kill you. They're not trying to lock out your 1-mana spells. That's just not part of the game plan anymore. Still 4 Blood Moons in here, and then just a bunch of creatures that kill you. And that's the plan there. And the grand finale of our set today is going to be the Dimir Reanimator Mirror match. It might not be sexy, it might not be fun, but it is very important to have a plan for this mirror match in the Legacy format right now. This is the default best deck. It is going to be huge at Eternal Weekend, and you're going to need to know how to play against it. The mirror match has a lot of really interesting level system involved where you really don't want them to be able to reanimate one of your monsters, which makes Entomb a liability. But if you know that, you could cut the Entomb package and just be a Barrowglyph mid-range deck. But if they know you know that, they might keep their Entomb reanimates in, because you're going to cut some animate deads when you cut your Entombs. And then they'll be better at doing that than you are. If you both know that, then you might just be playing Dimir Tempo in the sideboard games. There's also the option to partial juke, where there's just Archon and 2 Entombs in there, but not Atraxa, no animate dead, so it's less, but it's still there. And it'll be really interesting to see how Andreas and I both decide to approach these sideboard games and how hard we try to level each other. We're going to see a lot of different matches against the best deck. Hopefully it'll be a good showcase on my end of how to play against it and the strengths and weaknesses of each of these other 4 decks against Reanimator, and then go watch Andreas' side to see how to navigate all these different decks with the best deck if you're just going to do that. Eternal Weekend's coming. All these decks are decks you need to know. Let's get into it. Spooky season is here. I can't wait to play with my favorite ghouls and goblins. But the real fear is the looming specter of high shipping costs on singles. Card Trader is here to suck up those costs with their innovative Card Trader Zero system. Card Trader functions as your personal P.O. box to buy cards from sellers all over the world and get your order all in one easy package. Enjoy Duskmourn, House of Horror, and the rest of Card Trader's extensive worldwide selection of Magic and other TCG offerings. Use code BoshNRoll for 5% off your first order while you shop fearlessly with Card Trader Zero from cardtrader.com. I'm on the play in the Dimir Tempo versus Reanimator, and we are going to alternate play draw, which means I'll be on the draw with Eldrazi, the play with Red Prison, and then I'll be on the draw in the Reanimator Mirror. We do know all the matchups. We don't know the exact lists. And this hand does not line up well specifically against Reanimator combo. It's pretty good against Psychic Frog. I wouldn't mulligan this in the blind. I'm going to mulligan, knowing the matchup. It didn't really get better. At least I could play on basics here. That last hand, in addition to everything else that was wrong with it, didn't also lost to Wasteland. I think I'm going to bottom Bowmaster here. With the 2 frogs, I have enough power and toughness to make a game plan out of, and Wasteland might be a cheese unlock here. Kaito Fatal Push Force of Will. I'm going to put the Force on top of the deck because Reanimator plays Thoughtseize. Kaito's not good for a couple turns. Alright. Tuck Push in the hand. I'm drawing Force next turn. The Kaito's an interesting one. I've seen that popping up in Dimir Tempo decks. Yeah, I could just shove the Frog. I could leave up Daze Protection. I could just play Wasteland. I think I'm going to play Swamp and pass here. And right now we are at the intersection of my opponent's deck's higher power level versus my flatter outcomes. Like, my hand is perfectly good. Threat removal, counterspell. Looks great. But if my opponent casts Reanimate right now, I have to use 2 cards to answer the 6/5. Thoughtseize. Okay. Well, or I just get Thoughtseized and I have none of the above. In a Tempo Mirror, where I think everything else is equal, I would have just shoved Psychic Frog last turn. Maybe they force it, maybe they daze it, maybe they push it, but we at least had an exchange of resources where I'm pushing first and making them react to me, and if it just resolves, I'm way ahead. But because Entomb Reanimate with Daze backup is such a powerful game-ending play here, I had to back off. He took my Force, which means he is sculpting a combo-centric plan. I'm drawing Kaito, which is not helpful anywhere. My list does have 2 main deck Nile spell bombs in terms of answering Reanimate favorably, but that's about it. Ponder did not shuffle. I'm going to play around Daze, because that's why I took the line I did. We are dead to Entomb Reanimate. Fatal Push is annoying. Oh, great. Okay, so there's that half of it. And just any black source and a reanimate spell, and we're done. Just gonna check my list real quick, see if I have any answer to an Archon. Pretty sure I don't. I could bounce it, but I have a 1 of chance to bounce it. We're not winning this game. Okay. Yep, that is the power of that. Now we will bring in the Graveyard Hate and see if we could balance out. And because the way that the Reanimator deck plays around Graveyard Hate is it boards into my deck, but my deck was this the whole time. So in theory, at least, I'm a better version of their sideboard plan than they are. I love that Unstoppable Slasher is showing up in lists. What a fun card. Kaito is not for this matchup. He's definitely coming out. I don't really want Force of Will in. And this makes a lot of people nervous when I do it on the channel. Or cutting Force of Will versus a combo deck. What are you doing? Well, I'm bringing in a bunch of things that are better at answering their combo than Force of Will is, and I don't want to spend 2 cards to answer 1 card at all. Extra removal is good. The counterbalance is really interesting. Generally, that is a nice... It doesn't really break the mirror, but it cracks it in Tempo mirrors. I'm on the play where Daze still works. I could leave 1 Force in just as a tool to dig for if I find myself in a position where I'm ahead. Got a lot of 1-drops in this deck. Just looking at this counterbalance. I'm going to go 0 Forces here. I could see Brazen Borrower. Brazen Borrower is really good versus Troll. It's less good versus Atraxa and Archon, but it does at least play there too. Bowmaster is honestly kind of mid. I'm going to try it like this. There's a lot of things you could do here, but I'm just going full best Tempo Mirror and hoping he goes full Juke as well. I will keep this. We have the Mighty Ghost Vacuum to start the game. And this is where we see what plan he's on, because Ghost Vacuum can counter somewhere between 4 and 20 cards in the deck just by being in play. If he just like curves into Barrowgoyf, And Ghost Vacuum could still keep that under control. Just manage the size of it a little bit. Okay, this is going to take Ponder, almost certainly. I have 2 removal spells that could fight against a frog. And right now we're also experiencing the difference between traditional Reanimator and the current iterations of Frog Reanimator. In the past, you lose game 1 to combo Reanimator, whatever, and then you bring in something like Ghost Vacuum, and they need to find a very specific thing like their sideboard Show and Tell or their sideboard Serenity before they could actually do anything. This deck could just cast Psychic Frog. It could just miracle a Metamorphosis Fanatic and have a 4/4 in play. Drew another Wasteland. And with this Delta, if I want to fetch the Undercity Sewers, which I kind of do, then I open up my black sources to Wasteland. I don't think I'm going to crack this fetch unless I have to cast a black spell this turn. All these basics. And although I'm not really doing anything right now, Ghost Vacuum turns off the Reanimate half of the deck, and Fatal Push plus Edict turns off the Frog half of the deck. Or at least delays it, so he's got lots of time to sculpt out of this, but I am currently in a reasonable position to make this game last a while and dig out. Hello, hello. Just a little frog of my own. I'm going to assume this gets removed immediately, but I'm still going to cast it. We're in there on Frog. I played out the Wasteland to play around Daze. Yep, Fatal Push. No surprise there. I am fully expecting to exchange resources back and forth. The first threat never wins a Tempo Mirror. It's the last threat that matters. But generally, Tempo Mirrors, you could also tell who's ahead, even if nothing's on board, by how many cantrips that a player's played. And he's brainstormed and pondered this game, and I've done none of the above. The X factor right now in determining who's actually ahead is how many cards in his hand are blank because of Ghost Vacuum. And that number probably just got better for him because Brainstorm moves the cards around. I suck up Brainstorm in the end step. Daze, okay. I don't think I play out this Wasteland. Maybe I do. And there is some thought to what if I get to 6 mana off Ghost Vacuum? And then there's other thought of my deck plays Psychic Frog and Brainstorm. So just a random card in my hand is fine. Okay, Petty Theft. Oh, we got him with the Daze. That's good. I am going to cast Daze. I don't want to pick up a land here. I'll waste this land while it can't be used. And if he's trying to fight over Ghost Vacuum, that's a good spot. That indicates to me that he does have cards that he cares about over there. Prioritizing exiling creatures to keep reanimate targets down. I know I have a frog in my graveyard, but I want to leave my graveyard mostly alone because I play Murktide Regent and Goyfs. Speak of the devil. Okay, we're getting some action. We'll see if he actually dumps a monster and forces my hand here, or if this is like going to entomb some random other shit. All right, it did dump an Archon. That's interesting. All right, I am going to waste here. 3 mana for Barrowgoyf is a critical mass. Also, having 2 black sources lets him do something like reanimate my frog, and then I have to, if I Ghost Vacuum it, then he turns around and animates his Archon, which is exactly what's happening here. If this land is, or if this hand is land reanimate, I lose this game. But I have 2 answers to Psychic Frog in my hand, so I'm just going to let that happen. Slurp up that Archon. Of course, if his hand isn't land reanimate, I just gave him a Psychic Frog for free, but that is exactly the squeeze, how I could lose this game. Okay. Exiling Archon in response to give the Psychic Frog flying. That way it's at least not in the vacuum. And I'm going to kill this thing, just like 100%, so I might as well attack. I guess if I had Fatal Pushed before damage, I would have gotten an extra damage through. And he knows my whole hand right now. I'm going to push this in the upkeep. It's happening. Like, it's just, it is the plan. It's what's going on here. Missed a damage. That was going to happen no matter what, so. You're at 9. Carry on. Okay, there's a frog from you. I'm going to keep slurping out of that graveyard. And here I will get the Undercity Sewer. That's big. Put that on top. Should I attack first before he knows what I'm doing? I'm going to Thoughtseize first. If his hand is like 2 Dazes, I actually get punished pretty bad here. I discarded Thoughtseize and discarded Entomb. Okay, so I just take 2 damage here and his hand's empty. He is not going to block here, but I'll give him the opportunity to mess up. Okay, this Edict doesn't change the size of Nethergoyf. Each opponent sacrifices a non-token creature. Okay, we are in top deck mode. He can't cast a Barrogoyf if he draws it. I am big enough to maybe mash through a Psychic Frog. Counterspells don't matter anymore. Fatal Push is pretty good. Brazen Borrower is medium. Yeah, you're at 2, which could have been 1 if I played tighter. Put a second lethal threat on the board. I'm just shoving stuff at this point. Making sure I don't get stabilized versus a single Fatal Push. Alright, Ghost Vacuum, coast to coast there. Was worth, I think, it was worth 2 cards that we saw. We saw 2 Entombs that game, and they had to use the Reanimate on my creature. So it was worth like 2.5 cards that we saw, plus the cards that they moved around off the Brainstorms and Ponders could represent some more cards that were bad and needed to be moved around. Okay, he's seeing Ghost Vacuum now, and he knew I would have Graveyard Hate. I suspect he's on a partial juke. We saw Archon and 2 Entombs. Do I want this Bowmaster in, and if so, where does it go? Tamiyo is kind of mopey, but she does block small frogs and keep the cards flowing in important situations. I don't think this is a slasher matchup. Daze is worse on the draw, but I do still like having some amount of them in. The 1 Daze I drew that game was clutch. Force of Will is better on the draw because you're up a card. Like the first Force when you're on the draw puts you back to the same number of cards your opponent has, rather than when you're on the play when you're down 2 cards. But I don't think I'm going to play 1 Force against the deck with a bunch of Thoughtseizes. I like my permanents better, permanents and Macabres. Do I want to turn a Tamiyo and a Daze into 2 Bowmasters? I could turn 1 Tamiyo into 1 Bowmaster and just still play my 4 Dazes. If he's a strong enough player to play around Daze, now that he's been blown out by it once, that makes Daze worse. I think I'm going to add some Bowmasters in. That card has not been seen in 2 games, and last game Devolve did do a cantrip festival. Well, my opponent is not going to reanimate a creature quickly here. This swamp being swamp instead of island is actually pretty bad, but I'm not going to mulligan this. This is a threat and multiple ways to stop the combo. If his start is Entomb, Daze, Reanimate, we're dead. I'm going to go Swamp Vacuum. This game could be decided by this being basic Swamp instead of Underground Sea or Fetchland right now. If this Daze were live, I would feel so good. But instead, I feel medium to concerned. Okay, Brainstorm in response. Okay, and we're in there on the vacuum. Opponent is exposed to Wasteland. If he sticks a frog right now, that might not matter. All right, slurp up that Bee-Storm. I'm going to Wasteland first, because if he's got Brazen Borrower, I want to force him to Petty Theft now, where I could just replay my vacuum. And if he has nothing, that's cool too. I could add a Power and Toughness to the board, or I could add a second layer of Graveyard Hate. I'm going with Power and Toughness. We're in there. I got another Wasteland here. He just went that whole turn cycle without casting a spell. Just 2 mana, waste you, no action, pass. Can I please draw an island to go in with this Daze? Okay, got a basic swamp in the mix now. Waste you. And attack for 1. Get those beasts where we can find them. I'm going to add another Goyf here. We're both going to play this game on basic swamp. And we'll see who that favors. Okay, passing without a play. And there was a Brainstorm last turn, so this is a Brainstorm lock. I was busy narrating and forgot to exile a card. Hope that doesn't matter. I'm going to play this Nile Spellbomb. We'll follow-up action. I could pop it for 2 damage right now, but I could pop it for 2 damage and a card next turn. I'm going to wait for the card. Okay. Opponent is going to clean up this game, or this turn. Comes a Brazen Borrower. Underground Sea. Okay, now this Godforsaken Daze is online. And I am going to push the extra damage, draw the extra card here. That might prove to be a little aggressive. If I Daze this, then it's even more damage. And I'm safe from Wasteland. And I can Brainstorm while I have this blue floating, put back these extra lands I don't need. Land Murktide. Okay, now we're pushing real damage. I have Frog covered. The graveyard's not going anywhere. Cycling Troll. Okay, found a land. and Ponder. Okay, stuff's happening now. He is going to have to play this game from 5 life and still without a functional graveyard. But something like Psychic Frog backed by Force of Will could stabilize. Yeah, put you to 5. And can't cast Murktide because I've been playing on basics. I'll pass here. The Undercity Sewers is still in there somewhere. Okay, that one's pretty good. Just 4/4 creature. That is going to be a problem to solve. There are dazes in my deck. I think I'm just going to fetch Brainstorm. Fetch a basic and Brainstorm in response here. Alright, bad news. Okay, that's in. There's nothing to reanimate, but it is in. I did draw Ponder, though, so now I'm bigger than that. Okay, that's actually great. The Ponder solves a lot of problems here. This gives me 4 things in the graveyard. There's the 2 dazes. They were literally the next 2 cards down. Okay, I am not going to shuffle. I will take daze here. This is a forced block, a forced chump. It'll end up at 5, but have no board. Ponder saving the day, as it does. The 3rd land. Yeah, I can kill Barrogoyf with Fatal Push, and I could force a counterspell on that. Okay, end step. Suck up Fanatic. Fetch. Get Underground Sea. Fatal Push this. And now I should win. I don't know what he could have here. We got the GG. It bore out basically perfectly. The combo deck won game 1 because they are a more powerful deck overall. And then my specific interaction, the Ghost Vacuums and the Nile Spell Bombs and stuff, just made him not really function while my 1-drops got the job done. Cool. 1-0 so far. On to Eldrazi.
This video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, the easiest way to build Magic decks online. Moxfield supports over 30 formats, including Legacy and everything else you'll see on this channel. There's multiple customizations so you can interact with your deck how you want. Views such as text, grid, or stacks, and groupings like type, subtype, color, color identity, even artist. The site offers light mode, dark mode, and so much more. However you want to see your deck, Moxfield can provide it for you. Follow my Moxfield to keep up with the channel and what I'm playing in paper. I'll see you there.
On the draw with Eldrazi, as promised. I have an Eye of Ugin and a Once Upon a Time and a draw step to bring all this together. What are my hit rates here? There are 4 Ancient Tomb that I'd be happy to see. Ancient Tomb is the card I want most. Eldrazi Temple is fine. It's scary versus a Dazed Wasteland deck, but I think that's always going to be scary. I will keep this. What's Once Upon a Time doing in my deck if it's not doing this? I'm going to let Ponder resolve before he knows I'm on a Once Upon a Time line. I could have fired Once Upon a Time in his upkeep before he even plays his first land of the game just to play around Daze. But if I draw for turn and it's just Ancient Tomb, then I can do something different with Once Upon a Time. Or if I draw for turn and it's Lotus Petal, that changes the range of what I'm worried about with Once Upon a Time. Okay, Chalice the Void is bad news. Did not want that one at all. Okay, just the full spread of cards I would want. I'll take Ancient Tomb. And I'm going to fire a Chalice of the Void onto the stack. I am soft to Wasteland here. I'm soft to Daze here. The Chalice does turn off Entomb for the match. He could just play Psychic Frog here, and that's really bad too. I just accidentally discovered a Magic Online feature. As I mouse over the chat box, it highlights the card that I'm highlighting over. Has this always happened? I've been playing Magic Online since like 2005 and never known this to be a thing. That's cool. That probably just means I don't interact with chat very often, which is an intentional decision. I'm going to be honest. Hey, tapped Undercity Sewers. That means if Psychic Frog's coming, it's not this turn. It also means I didn't get Wastelanded. Dumped to Verdant Catacombs. We faded. If that randomly hit and got a free Entomb off of the Archon here when Entomb is locked out, I would have been so sad. Okay, Eldrazi Temple. If something gets Wastelanded, what would I prefer? Because I get to play 1 spell this turn. I guess playing Eldrazi Temple turns on the One Ring for the future. Okay. Temple, Thought-Knot Seer. I could play around Daze if I wanted to cast Fleshraker here instead. You can't Fatal Push it. Actually, yeah, I am going to play around Daze and play Fleshraker. I could Chalice on 0 to get a Dingus here. Chalice on 0 turns off my 4 Lotus Petals and nothing in my opponent's deck. How much do I care about Lotus Petal? Not that much. I could just also do that next turn and it's the same. If I need 1 extra mana next turn, that line is still there. Okay, cycling a Troll. Animate Dead targeting Troll is still a solid line to play the game with. I couldn't Chalice on 0 that turn, or on 2 that turn, because Eldrazi Devil doesn't work that way. Yeah, basic Swamp in the mix. There it is. A Psychic Frog. The great nemesis. Let's see what I can do with that. Uh-oh. Well, that's interesting. I have Ugin. I might just fucking combo kill him right now. Okay, Glaring Fleshraker, trigger. Take 1. And then take another one. Chalice, if I back up Chalice on 1, that's free. Okay, Chalice of the Void on 1. This will replace itself while dealing 2 damage. The Thought-Knot Seers are also free right now. I'm causing mayhem. And then at the end of the chain, I can cast the One Ring after Thought-Seizing him twice. This is crazy. Cycling a Troll in response. Daze is not live here. I don't care about Force. Okay, he's just going full ham donkey on the Psychic Frog. Won't let me take the cards because they're already gone. That's fair. They were all 1-drops. This Chalice was gross. Okay, cool. Thought-Knot Seer resolves. Can't take the Underground Sea. Oh, I wish I could. Be a lot cooler if I could. Another one. Take another 3 damage. Or 4 damage. 4 damage. The combo kill, kids. We are not going to lose this game. I don't even know how it would be possible, honestly. Like a big hit from Psychic Frog getting something going is the answer, but the One Ring stops that shit. Oh, and you're just dead. This is any colorless spell. The combo kill. Storm you out. Yeah, that's a mode of this deck, by the way. The aggro big creature attacking prison deck can also just storm you out on turn 3. Okay, to the sideboard. Leyline of the Void is heavy because obviously it is the best thing to do against the Reanimator half. But if he jukes off Reanimator, I just have this super awkward shitty card in my deck. But I think that's okay. Probably worth the risk if I can figure out what to cut. I might just be bad at Eldrazi, but the Once Upon a Time effects are always the things I go to first. Devour of Destiny is one of them. I like leaving some in because it's castable and Exile Psychic Frog, no questions asked. Herald is another card that I reach for frequently when I need something to cut. That Chalice was nice. That was just Mind Twist, got 4 cards out of his hand. And I need either one more cut or I need to not bring in all these cards. But I do want all these cards. I'm going to look for one more cut. Chalice is a little worse on the draw, and I don't want to draw 2 of them. But the first one is pretty powerful. The juke makes it less powerful. Resolving Entomb before Chalice can come down makes it less powerful too. Yeah, I think I'm shaving a Chalice. Barrow-Goyf is a card I have to think about. Dismember answers Barrow-Goyf. I win and lose a lot of games when I play Eldrazi versus Psychic Frog. When a player dismembers my turn 2 Psychic Frog and I just discard 4 cards and then keep it, and they took 4 damage and I have a giant creature. Dismember is not a good answer to that. It is a good answer to Troll. But if I have Graveyard Hate, I don't need answers to Troll. It's a reasonable answer to Barrow-Goyf. I'm running out of things I'm happy to cut, though. I do have Kozilek's Command in. I have Kozilek's Command and Devour of Destiny, and the Battle Mage can bounce the Barrow-Goyf. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this and leave the Dismembers in the board. Save those for those Magus of the Moon matchups. Okay, I do have Graveyard Hate active on turn 2, which might be too slow. I have 2 Battle Mages, but no blue mana or green mana. Blue is the important color here. And blue mana basically comes off of Cavern of Souls and Lotus Petal, and that's it. I do like my land count here. I'm not going to full do a Wasteland. I'm actually going to keep this. If he just has Entomb Reanimate, he wins. But even if I draw a Lotus Petal, I can fend that off on turn 1. Okay, that's not a Lotus Petal. I'm going to play Ancient Tomb and pass. And right now, this is important that we didn't share exact deck lists. because he doesn't know that I don't play Fairy Macabre. Whether this list is on Fairy Macabre or Leyline is actually a big, important piece of information for the matchup. He dumped an Entombed to his Surveil. It's a little scary. I'd love to draw Cavern of Souls right now and just bounce this frog for a minute. That did not happen. I mean, Daze is going to get me no matter what. I guess I'm just going to command this frog right now. Exile target creature. Target player scries X, draws a card. A counterspell is bad for me here, but if this resolves, it's great. If he does have a counter, ooh, it resolved. Wow. Okay. Bottom Leyline of the Void, you had your chance. Bottom Eye of Ugin, I got plenty of mana here. And I drew a Chalice. All right. So his hand is not a counterspell. It might be Entomb plus Reanimate. If he dumped one Entomb, he either is just off that or already has it. Those are the possible explanations of that. Okay, just a slow little pass back. And I drew the Cavern. We're in business, kids. What does this mean? Okay, what lands are in my toolbox here? There's a Blast Zone, there's a Wasteland, there's more Wastelands. I could just start wasting. Okay, Cavern on Eldrazi. Might go spawn no kicker. I get a search. Unless he's got Consign, then I don't get a search. Now I could get Wasteland and waste him, or I could get something else and keep casting spells. I could also get Wasteland, cast Chalice, and then waste him twice next turn. I'm kind of into that. If he has a Daze, he just drew it this turn, because would have protected Psychic Frog with it. Basic Swamp tutored for. Fatal Push. Entomb. Okay. Did have the Entomb, but probably doesn't have a Reanimate, or else he could have done it all last turn when I'm tapped out. And from here, even if he does have the Animate dead, Reanimate doesn't work anymore. If he has Animate dead, then I can bounce the Archon and keep playing. He is extremely well set up to flip a Metamorphosis Fanatic. That's what I'm worried about right now. And that's the problem I need to solve. Wasteland. But if I waste him twice, he can't Metamorphosis Fanatic. Wasteland, Wasteland. And I got another one ready. And let's commit this Flesh Raker to the battlefield. I could play out a Battle Mage to get extra damage going. How many of these do I think I'm going to need in the game? I'm going to do it. Let's just get some power on the board. Okay, I'm going to sandbag the other one. That's on bounce the next creature problem duty. But I have applied enough pressure that I feel good holding that back. That represents basic island. I can't waste them off anything anymore. That's a good one to have. Okay, fetching now. What are we doing here? Shooting my sheriff. Yeah, he's a sheriff. Okay. I'm gonna spend some mana right now while I can. Kozilek's Command. I'm gonna scry and exile graveyard cards. I'm doing this now so I get the ping on the way out. I could have made 4 dinguses and dealt 4 damage, but I think finding action is more important. Yeah, like getting 1 ring and dumping all these lands is way better than just dealing 4 damage here. Happy with that decision. My sheriff. Opponent's at 12. The frog, I'm ready. Oh, okay. I can exile any land with this. If I go Yavimaya, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. I'm going to go Sowing Mycospawn, Con Queso here. Exile target land. I'm going to go for the Swamp because he can't pick that one up and save it with Daze. I can get Gaia's Cradle here and play the 1 ring. Yeah, Gaia's Cradle looks like the get. I could bounce the frog, attack, or I could put 1 ring on the stack and bounce the frog next turn when I have more power. That sounds good. Okay, I'm just going to pass here, and then we're in here. I found another land. Consigned to Memory is still obnoxiously effective right now. Flesh Raker, we love it. I'm going to cast Flesh Raker first, and then play the 4th Wasteland. I could waste the fetch. Might have a 3rd island, or 3rd basic. It's not normal to do that. All right, Cavern on Eldrazi. And then a blue, a colorless, and a colorless. I can sack spawn, right? That doesn't matter. Yeah, that'll be right back. That keeps Wasteland up. Oh, this costs more than I think it does. All right, never mind. Gaia's Cradle is in the mix. Cast with the blue kicker. I could cast it with the green kicker also. It just doesn't do anything. Okay, bounce Psychic Frog. If he has Consign with Replicate 1 here, that opens him up to Wasteland. We got the GG in the chat, though. Okay, and we are 2-0. Maybe Reanimator sucks. Let's see what Mono Red Stompy on the play looks like. The BoshNRoll channel is proudly partnered with the Resleevables.
Good. All right, here we go, gang.
In this YouTube series, hosts Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan take us on a set-by-set journey through the good, the bad, and the ugly of Magic's history. Each episode is a focused deep dive into the facts about a set's design and release, the Magic lore expressed through the cards in that set, Tournament Edition gameplay videos featuring products and Pro Tour decks of the era, an award show that shouts out the best and weirdest cards of the set, and a final grade for the set's overall success. Whether you want a history lesson or a nostalgia hit, The Resleevables has it at youtube.com/theresleevables. On the play for round number 3, on Red Stompy, Red Prison, I'm not doing anything turn 1. I have a turn 2 1 ring, which if it resolves is insane, but if it gets lot seized countered, I'm dead. I'm going to mulligan this. We need to do better. Okay. Turn 1 Blood Moon is pretty strong, followed up by Lelia. I'm in. And he has to have force here because he's on the draw. Days won't save him. I could bottom City of Traders or the backup Blood Moon. I think it's the backup Moon. If he gets 1 turn, that's enough to fetch a basic and be less worried about that. Force check. Okay, we're in. Troll of Khazad-dûm can get basic swamp pretty easily. Basic island will be hard to find unless it's just in his hand already. Unfortunately for me, cycling troll, finding basic swamp, casting an animate spell on the troll is probably good enough in this matchup. I drew another Spirit Guide, of course. I'm on that mono red luck today. Flipped a 1 ring. That's gone out of the deck, unfortunately. Can't play it, but I do have a 3/3 that can become a 4/4 next turn. Didn't cycle troll. That's good news for me. This might be a freebie. Oh, I ripped another 1 ring anyway. Magic's easy. Lelia. Flipped a new Lelia. I am not going to cast that because it's a legend and there's no value in me having it in my graveyard. It's actually bad because then that gives him something to reanimate. Okay, this turn Lelia trades with future trolls, which he now can barely afford to reanimate. Shatter Skull, play that. All right, he's done. Turn 1 Blood Moon carried it. We were about to boom, zoom, boomby doom. Okay, to the sideboard. And now I bring in the graveyard hit that I didn't even have that game. Play draw, very important in Magic, it turns out. Okay, 4 Red Blasts in this deck for frogs, 4 Ghost Vacuums for reanimates. I will not be bringing in Lightning Bolt, Fiery Confluence, or Disruptor Flute here. Dead Gone. Gone can clear a Psychic Frog of any size, but so does Pyroblast. Fury does very little in this matchup. It doesn't kill Troll, it doesn't kill Frog. I think Fury is a clean one to take out. Opponents on the play where Blood Moon gets worse. Like if he just fetches basic island, cycles a Troll, he's fully playing the game. So I might just be off Moon and Fury and then bring Moons back in if there's game 3. I kind of just want to kill him. Gone can also clear a Barrogoyf, which Red Blast does not do. Okay, I might actually need the Gons in the deck. That means I have to find 2 more cuts, though. What does that look like? All 4 Red Blast seems like a lot, but making sure that my 1 ring resolves, or making sure I'm not getting mushed by a Psychic Frog, are important boxes to check. These are lands, these are lands. These are mana sources. I don't think Fable is cuttable. I could shave a Lelia. She is smaller than Frog and costs more, at least in the early game, and it's a legend, so drawing redundant copies is kind of rough. I might not need all these Vexing Baubles in, but they are going to be on all their free permission, because that is important. Okay, I will try it like this. I'm sure you could find some videos on the Thraben U channel, friend of the show, colleague on the Eternal Glory podcast, which is sideboarding and sequencing more confidently with this style of deck than I am. In no graveyard hate, I have multiple answers to Psychic Frog, and I have a turn 2 Fable. I'm going to try this. Again, he does not know my sideboard. I am on 4 Ghost Vacuum, but as far as he knows, it could be 4 Fairy Macabre. Oh, I could just Fable now. That does require committing City of Traders. If that was Ancient Tomb, I would have shoved Fable. Maybe I'm supposed to do it anyway. I'm just scared of Daze because I'm a wuss. Okay, well, there will be a monster in the graveyard. Let's see if he respects Fairy Macabre or not. We might take turns exchanging non-games. Though even if this Archon comes in, I can discard City of Traders, Gone the Archon, pay for Daze or Blast of Force. Yeah, he's just in there. Said, fuck your Fairy Macabre. I'm going to discard City of Traders. If he can come up with a Thoughtseize here, I'm in trouble. Okay, that is a nice follow-up for next turn. Gone. Get gone. If I were a brave hero, I could have shoved the One Ring this turn, but I'm not one of those. Not when Archon of Cruelty is on the battlefield. I'll take more risks if I'm not just dead to the next attack. There's Big Frogger. Here I could chuck my City of Traders to play the One Ring. I'm just going to Pyroblast Psychic Frog and then try to cast Fable. I could still, like if he forces this, I could still play the One Ring this turn. Yeah, clearing the Archon is a easy choice. That's just a little Entomb for the road. I am going to let go of my city here. If Fable resolves, I don't need it as much. Okay, moment of truth. Is the second Reanimate spell ready to go? We are very much still in this game despite being mushed with a turn 2 Archon of Cruelty with no resistance. Let's see us Surveil into the graveyard here. Oh no. Underground Sea, Entomb, Traxa and Archon in the bin at this point. Ugh. Oh, went for a Traxa. Okay. So he's already holding Reanimate or hoping that the 10 cards will show him one, and it certainly did. We've got Force Blue card Reanimate. I'm good. We can stop. Okay. Did not respect Fairy Macabre at all and just sent. That makes sense. We've got the option of putting Blood Moon back in, or I could just play without it. Vexing Bauble in what numbers? We confirmed Force is still in the deck. We saw one at the end there. Not that I had any doubt about it, but it is nice to just be sure. Do I think some number of Blood Moon is better than some number of Vexing Bauble? That's the question I'm asking myself right now. I think I'm better off if all my spells resolve than I am trying to constrict his spells, even though we did have that sick cheese in game 1. Okay, here we go. Still no graveyard hate. This is a turn 1 Laelia. Turn 2 One Ring. I'll keep it. It came to game. I don't think that you can juke versus mono red. Not that hard. And you can juke a little bit. If you don't want the Atraxas, you can back off it a little bit. But having the 1-2 punch Archon of Cruelty is one of the ways you can keep up with them. I don't think you want to just settle into 0 combo Barogoyf gaming. The opponent's on 6. Chrome Mox. This is going to exile the Smashing. And here's Laelia. Flipped a Pyroblast. Wasn't using that this turn. And coming out with a creature like this means he can't Wasteland me. And Wasteland's good against my current mana I'm showing, but that just... You can't Wasteland here, take 4, let me flip, and then try to play the game when you're about to take 5 after that. If he had Force of Will Wasteland, that would have been a sequence, but once the Laelia resolved, Wasteland is just not a concern. I have 2 looks this turn at a Ghost Vacuum to not be that worried anymore about really anything, honestly. If I can make sure I don't get reanimated upon next turn, but leading on Basic Island, you can't Entomb Reanimate. The best you can do off a Basic Island start is a turn 2 Troll, and you have to take 6 to do it, and Laelia will be 5/5 by the time it's attacking into that Troll. Oh, Zombie Booms. I'm going to get my Laelia flip. Can't resist. Card advantage. Pyrogoyf, you don't say. That deals 2 damage. Alright, this is unfortunately a great hit for Daze, but I am going to cast my free spell. that is still card advantage, because they're going to go back a land and lose a card from their hand to deal with a thing that appeared for free. Opponent's at 11. There's Frog. I have a 4/4 and a 2/3. If opponent discards anything that is not a land or sorcery, the Goyf gets bigger as well. Do I want to play Vexing Bauble? I don't think I need to do that. I can add an instant to the graveyard, though. I am going to play Vexing Bauble. Might make my Laelia flip a little wonky, but it makes sure that dead resolves, and I can put extra damage on a Goyf. Bombardier's exiled, couldn't cast that anyway. 5 damage coming through. He could discard his whole hand to beat Laelia and just have a big Frog. Pyrogoyf will do a bunch of damage there, but the Dead Gone will finish off the Frog. He can also read on board that I can give the Goyf +1/+1 just by sacking Bauble. Unfortunately, I can't sack Bauble and cast an instant here, just don't have enough mana for it. A blocking Goyf. Let's see how many discards we want to commit here. Reanimate's still a sorcery. I have to discard a sorcery or land, so there goes a land. I'm going to dead the Frog here, because that both puts 2 damage on Frog and makes Pyrogoyf bigger. If I had a land lined up for Gone, I might pace this out differently, but I think right now, forcing this action is worth doing. All right, 2 damage on that thing. They're both 3/4s now. Discarding any unique creature type is a wash on the damage. All right, discarded a Troll, so that's a wash, but it does put a Troll in the graveyard. But combat hasn't changed at all here. Consigned to memory, that does change combat. Still needs to discard the last card to win the combat, though. Gotta go Hellbent here if you want to stabilize versus the Goyf. Right now it's a trade. They would just both die, and he'd get to keep 1 card in hand. Oh, that's clever. Yep, I should have thought of that. You can exile unique card types and make my Goyf small. Right. Always legal. Okay, that's fine. That was still an attack that got, what was that, 4 cards out of his hand? Now let's see if I could beat a 5/6 Psychic Frog. Jesus Christ. You didn't know that was there, did you? Oh, there was a Ponder. You might have known that was there. Oh, that's bad. And it gets the Troll. All right, now I think the game is over. Okay, first real showcase of Metamorphosis Fanatic in this league. It showed up as a 4/4 in the first round when my opponent was already facing down a pair of 4/5s, and it didn't bring anything with it. This is actually a game where the opponent is facing down an enormous creature, and 10 power lifelink is gonna be nuts. If I draw a soul land here, I could play the One Ring and maybe grind back in. I can only deal 5 with Bombardiers. Oh, that's so disappointing. We were almost there, folks. Almost there. I can kill the Troll by sacking Laelia, and I can shove 2 damage through with Bombardiers if I do it before blocks. I'm still taking 11, maybe up to 12 next turn, 4 of its lifelink. And I would have to shock this in for it to work, which 12 is exactly my life total. And throwing anything smaller than Laelia doesn't work. Broadside can't throw itself. What a savage beat. If he's at 5, I win anyway. And if this is any card other than Metamorphosis Fanatic, I probably win this turn. Tight. The Fanatic being 2 creatures to block the Menace, also just insanely relevant here. What if I just attack? Okay, hold on. If I play Broadside Bombardiers and attack with both, I'm getting a timeout warning. Shut up, Magic Online. I know what's going on here. Okay. I'm going to shock this in, and just to reset the clock. If I just attack with both of these, if he double blocks Laelia, he's dead. If he double blocks Broadside... Oh, wait. Do I just have it 1 here? Wait. I think with a little cleverness, I think I just win here, actually. Yeah, because Broadside can kill itself. Yeah, this is just lethal. If you block Laelia, I win. If you don't block Laelia, I win. Oh, glad I took a moment to figure that out. I'm sure the mono-red players are like, bro, obviously you had it. And Menace is the deal breaker. Boom, zoom, boomby dooms. Undefeated. That was a fun little combat puzzle to solve. We had to think about Vexing Bauble, Menace, Boast, and this attack trigger versus lifelink. This is as Garfield had deaded. And I will throw Chrome Mox at Broadside Bombardiers. Who needs Thraben you? BoshNRoll finding the lines. And we are 3-0. Does Reanimator suck? Find out soon. I bet Reanimator will win the next round, though. On to the final one, the Mirror. We're a few rounds into the video. Thanks for sticking with me. If you're having fun, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to play what I'm playing, you can order it all in one package from cardtrader.com. Use code BoshNRoll for 5% off your first order. On the draw in the final round in the Reanimator Mirror. Tough place to be on the draw, especially starting with a 0 lander. Gonna mulligan this. It's just a shame because this hand is gorgeous if it had 1 mana of any kind. All right, mulligan. This is fine. I am not trying to engage with the Reanimator shit here. I'm just playing Psychic Frog backed by Force and Daze. I think that is a fine place to be. Like I said, one of the great sins in this mirror match is letting them reanimate one of your big monsters. Okay, so if he thought Thoughtseize to be here, it's probably going to take Frog. But I don't think I spend my Force here. The Frog plan is just too slow. And I could Brainstorm into Entomb Reanimate, and then back that up with Force. We'll see what happens. But I'll finish the thought from before the Thoughtseize. Letting your opponent reanimate one of your monsters is one of the great sins of the matchup. So just like having a random Entomb floating around. Oh, hello. Having a random Entomb floating around can be pretty awkward. I'm going to play Delta to respect Wasteland. He took Daze, which probably means he has 1 layer of protection for a turn 2 combo, but not 2. And he doesn't care about Psychic Frog. Or he's got his own Psychic Frog. So this spot is interesting. I could just cast Brainstorm right now and see if I find Reanimate. I'm actually going to do that. I'm going to Brainstorm right now. Underground Sea, Brainstorm. Yikes. Okay. I did not find Reanimate. Not even close. Atraxa and Underground Sea. Or I could pitch Atraxa to the Force here. Underground Sea, Misty Rainforest. And then force this pitching Atraxa. I think I like that best. Okay, that Frog is answered. I can't Entomb in my upkeep as much as I'd like to because that puts Archon where he can reanimate it. Having to Force of Will something that early sucks too. Maybe I didn't have to, but I certainly did. And that's the power of Thoughtseize. Not only is my best card gone, but he can build a whole plan around what he knows I still have. All right, Fatal Push. But he was ready for Frog, which we knew because he had already seen the hand and didn't take it when it was the most unique game plan centric card in that hand. So not taking it means he didn't care about it. Now I have many big draws in my deck. Entomb or Animate Dead represent Archon immediately. If I flip one of my 3 Metamorphosis Fanatics, then I get a Frog back with it. Brazen Borrower, Frog, Fatal Push all play here as well. But running into... Although I have all those good draws, I would trade it all for Psychic Frog in play, ready to attack. Okay, big money, big draw. Brainstorm could be anything. Okay, B-Storm, Fatal Push, let's go. Okay, I'm going to put Polluta, Delta, and Entomb back in that order. I'm going to push the Frog and hope that Force Blue card aren't the last 2 cards in this hand. Discarded Archon in response. Me without a Reanimate to punish. Okay, 2 cards, and Ponder did just resolve. That Archon's in there. Maybe. Don't have it. Sewers. Force Will to the graveyard. No, don't cast spells. No! Fudge my life. Well, I guess I have to cast a Brainstorm here and try to mitigate this however I can, which is like, basically it's find Brazen Borrower hiding on top of my deck. There's Reanimate for the punish. Too late for that shit. Yeah, I can't win this game anymore. Yep. Threaded the needle there. I'm just thinking, making sure I'm doing my full thoughts, but the Archon strips whatever I leave in my hand, so like even just like upkeep cycle trolls try to spike Brazen Borrower isn't live here. If I take a turn off to draw and then cycle the troll, like I would just leave Thoughtseize in my hand, get it discarded, cycle the troll, then it's a whole turn before I get another look. Yeah, this is over. Okay. Ghost Vacuum. I like a partial juke here. You should adjust to what your opponent is showing you, but I do also, like, I think my default is partial juke here, which would look like this. And frogs and vacuums can suck my own Archons out of my graveyards if I need that. Do I want Dismember? If we have slugfested back and forth a bit before Frog shows up, Dismember might actually kill an early Frog. It does kill Fanatic and Troll. Do I have another cut I'm happy with? I could cut another Force. On the play, I could also just be the full game 1 strategy over again. But I think in general, I would rather level out my experience and try to outmaneuver an opponent than try to slugfest them. Here we go. Another no-lander. I'll mulligan this. Entomb, Reanimate, Daze. I'll keep. I'm going to bottom Wasteland. I don't really think that's the fight I'm going to fight here. I'm going to play Delta and pass. I am prepared to float black, Daze, a Ghost Vacuum, cast Entomb, if that's what happens here. I'd love it if he just cast Ponder. I would also Daze a Thoughtseize. This comes with the added pressure of if I win the fight over Entomb, then lose the fight over Reanimate, my Archon's going to be in the graveyard for him to reanimate. But I think if I'm not keeping a hand like this, what am I even doing here? Underground Sea, Entomb. We'll see if we have a fight over this. If he just counters it, we'll play on normal. I'll just cast Ponder and start being a normal Magic player. Yeah, Daze is fine. Sets him back a land on the draw, and now I'll just cast Ponder and play Magic. If he cycles a Troll here, I'll reanimate it. Brainstorm. Okay. Did use the mana. That was one of only 2 Entombs I'm playing. A Reanimate's going to be mediocre for a while. Maybe I'll just rip Psychic Frog right now. That would be great. Right off the tippity top. Brazen Borrower is a nice one for the matchup. Now, if he reanimates my Troll, I just get it back. I can set up a Fanatic here. It has nothing to rebuy, but it is still a 4/4 creature. I don't really want this Reanimate around. Reanimate, Fanatic, Wasteland. I could also just shuffle. Shuffle or flip a 4/4 lifelink surrounded by 2 cards I'm not that interested in. I guess Wasteland is fine, though. But if I get Wastelanded, my Fanatic's really bad. I am going to go for the 4/4. Blooded Strand. Okay, 4/4 creature. Opponent already used a Daze, and Fatal Push doesn't kill this. Get back nothing, unfortunately. Play out the Wasteland and pass. If he goes for Undercity Sewers here, I'm zapping it. Basic Island. Cycle to Troll. Got Basic Swamp. He's still holding Underground Sea. May have brainstormed it away, actually. He did pick it up, then cast the Brainstorm, so we don't know that it's there. Brazen Borrower, a solid animal in this position. Ponder. That makes Daze live. I'm drawing Reanimate here. Doesn't really help. A Petty Theft this idiot. I can Daze to make sure this happens. Attack you to 9, then I can add a 3-power flyer to the board next turn. Cycling the Troll in the upkeep, getting a shuffle value. Found Underground Sea. If he reanimates, it goes to 3, and he's dead to Brazen Borrower turn after next. If he has Animate dead, I can Daze it. If he just doesn't do anything, that's good for me. Animate dead, okay. I have a Daze for that one. And now I get your Troll. Ooh, a little Ghost Vacuum. Just in case. There's one of the cardinal sins. Reanimating your creature. Macabbing your own graveyard. That was necessary. And that also reveals Fairy Macabre as a thing he's on. I could reanimate the Macabre, or I could Wasteland and play Ghost Vacuum. Reanimating the Macabre puts lethal on board. I have to decide if Wastelanding is more important than putting lethal on board right now. I am going to play Ghost Vacuum around Daze, because if one thing resolves here, I prefer it to be this. And then I'm going to reanimate the Macabre. Let's put that damage on the board. Make him have it. Okay, I have that now. We have both revealed a little bit about our sideboard plan and a little bit about what specific type of interaction we have. Barrogoyf would be really effective here. I guess Barrogoyf is smaller than Metamorphosis Fanatic right now, because I can eat Animate Dead, and then there's instant sorcery land in the graveyards. There's no creatures, and there's only 1 land as well. I could actually make Barrogoyf very small here. It still has Death Touch, which means it kills the Fanatic, but Fanatic in my graveyard makes my next Fanatic completely insane, and I am drawing new cards for the first time in a while right now. Cycling Troll. Grabbed Undercity Sewers. Can't reanimate this because you'll die. Petty Theft my Fanatic. Okay. That's back in my hand. Can't stop that. End step, slurp up the Troll. I'm mostly out of reanimates here. Okay, Ponder versus adding Brazen Borrower to the board. Ponder is just so good. I love casting Ponder. Oh, of course I hit a reanimate after slurping the Troll, saying that's probably not going to happen. All right, it's fine. Okay, backup Brazen Borrower. There's a Metamorphosis Fanatic on top of my deck. I'm still chipping damage. Opponent has 3 cards in hand, and one of them is Undercity Sewers. Here is the Barrogoyf we read last turn. The Barrogoyf's kind of sweet here because I can Petty Theft it, and if the Petty Theft gets countered, that's a creature I can bring back with the Fanatic that's on top of my deck. I kept the card on top. End step, Petty Theft the Barrogoyf. Okay, that worked. Get rid of Animate Dead. That makes the Goyf smaller in the future. And I'm going to Fanatic here. Maybe I don't need to Fanatic here. Maybe this was bad. Maybe I'm supposed to Brazen Borrow. Yeah, because Barrogoyf's not bigger than this, right? That's what we determined. Okay. I am going to cast this. I'm not sure it's correct. It's having these borrowers chilling. That does beat... Oh, I beat the Barrogoyf anyway with the Macabre. Okay. Game 3. Opponent's had enough. Now we can re-pivot. I showed him Entomb. I showed him Ghost Vacuum. I showed him Daze. And none of these cards over here on the left are going to come in. The Consign, the Hydroblast, the Harbinger. I'm not doing that. How much Reanimator I want and how much Force of Will I want are the only questions. And I'm honestly pretty happy with this configuration. I have in all my answers to a Barrogoyf. I have in all my efficient Graveyard Hate. I could switch 1 Daze for 1 Force on the draw and just try to absorb a nut draw a little better. I know Andreas has been into Dark Betrayal, a card that is not featured in my list. That's a 1 black instant, destroy target black creature. That's extremely insane in breaking these mirrors. I don't have access to anything like that. We've seen Fairy Macabre now. Is there a more complete juke? Like if I go no Entomb, no Archon, still keep the Reanimates and the Fanatics, that would just get me 3 forces back. Do I even want that? This makes Fairy Macabre really bad. I'm just not a huge believer in Force of Will in this matchup at all. And we're incentivized to fetch basics because it's a Wasteland Mirror anyway, so there's not even that likely of a gotcha with Harbinger. I'm going to go full Dimir Tempo here. No Reanimator left. Well, there's some Reanimator left, and there it is. I am going to keep this hand. I have Basic Island, Basic Swamp, and the opportunity to interact with him going quickly, and I have the ability to go quickly myself. I don't like Underground Sea Pass. That makes me nervous. That means I'm going to cast Ghost Vacuum. Ghost Vacuum and Thoughtseize are equally counterable. Like if he has Entomb, Daze, Reanimate, that's just going to happen no matter what. And this is the thing I'd rather have resolved between the two, if one of them's going to. And if Vacuum resolves this early, I could just aggressively attack both graveyards every turn and try to keep Barrogoyf as small as possible. I also play Barrogoyf though, so that's a little bit of a twisted incentive. Uh-oh. Floating Black Daze this is my nightmare scenario. Pass priority. Okay, Cycle Troll is not as bad as Entomb, but it might be just as bad, actually. It might prove to be dangerous. Okay. And there was no sequence of what I have available that would have beaten that. Okay, you've got a Troll, and you get the first attack with Troll, which means I'm looking for Dismember or Brazen Borrower or something that can race this right now. Brainstorm's a nice draw. They can't daze me. More Reanimates. I could Thoughtseize into the Troll. I think I can put back a Troll and a Reanimate here. And then do I want to Thoughtseize them? I think I do. Life total is a resource. Show me what you're working with. I'm going to try to make sure my next turn can happen if it's going to happen. Oh, wow. Full house. Fatal pushes and lands. All right. Well, if I answer Troll, I'm in good shape. If I don't answer Troll, I am going to die in a couple turns. Oh, you drew a spell? Stop. No, you didn't. Settle your shit. Pretty good draw. Pretty good. Just the best draw there is. That's fine. I have Fatal Push for that one. It's the troll that I was trying to solve anyway. Force of Will. That's why I don't like it in this matchup. It's too late. And I don't have any blue cards. Barrogoyf is too slow. I could Fatal Push and reanimate his frog right now, but he just has 2 Fatal Pushes over there. Even if I Fatal Push, reanimate, hold up Force, he has double Black Source, double Fatal Push is the whole hand right now. Okay. My own troll doesn't help. Reanimate doesn't help. Force blue card might help check the box of don't lose. If I put back reanimate and troll, that lets me still ponder. I'm going to get an Underground Sea. That does turn on Wasteland to be a good draw for him. But it mostly is anyway. I'm going to shuffle this. The ponder will see the same number of new cards, but it costs mana to do it. Shuffle. Fatal Push here. And 1 draw step to rule them all. I have the Force back up. The forces I boarded back in are here. Oh god, he flipped Metamorphosis Fanatic. Why don't you chill out? Why don't you just chill? Okay, I'm at 9. I have to rip a Brazen Borrower or Dismember here to continue playing the game. Do I have an Edict? Did that happen this match? No, that I'm remembering from previous matches. There is 2 Brazen Borrowers and the Dismember. And that's the whole squad. There's Underground Sea. His hand is 2 Fatal Pushes. Come on, deck. Big rips. That's not it. All right, GG. If I was on the play, the Barrogoyf would stabilize, but I'm not. Cool. All right, he finally got one. Lucky Andreas. Okay, that was the set. Reanimator lost every round, technically. We'll get Andreas on a call here and debrief the set. Let's go do that.
All right, welcome back, everyone. This is the debriefing. I'm Andreas Peterson, also known as Ecobaronen on the internet. I'm joined by Brian Koval, better known as BoshNRoll, and we just had an awesome set of legacy matches. This time the tables were turned. Last time we played Vintage with Brian on his trusty Oath deck, and now it's my turn to play my trusty legacy deck against the field. Yeah, feel the pain a little bit against a diverse field. So yeah, first of all, how much legacy do you play like regularly, and in these 4 decks in particular? Were you coming in cold, or did you feel good about that?
I play Legacy almost every day on my channel, but my business model is I play what my Patreon subscribers send me to play. So I might be playing Dimir Reanimator one day, and then I'm playing 5-color Sliver Aggro the next day, and the day after that it's Esper Stoneblade. I'm not grinding leagues to maximize win rate with the best deck. That's just not how I engage with Legacy day to day, but I know exactly what's going on in the format, at least.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that will give you like an overall perspective that is incredibly valuable, especially for because last time I kind of felt the heat when I was playing 4 different decks, and I had to, master those and play those to a reasonable level to not look silly, right? So that was your turn today, and I think you did an amazing job. Some next level plays in there, I'll even say, but we can get to those later. First of all, I want to pick your brains a little bit about the video we did, months ago with, the Band of Grief on the horizon, but not, effective yet, and what we kind of try to predict back then. I remember I was big on the Reanimator deck, and can't really remember what else we played. Eldrazi, maybe also I had Mono Red in there. You had some Initiative. Did anything change, like, from your point of view from then until now when we actually have, actual data?
I think now I'm more grumpy that Grief didn't go 3 months earlier than I was then. Because when we did that video, for people who didn't watch it, I mean, it's on both our channels. Go back and check it out if you want to see that. But we were predicting the post-Grief metagame. And this was after we all knew Grief needed to be banned, but they said, give it one more ban cycle. We want to see it if Modern Horizons 3 shakes it up. And one of the decks you submitted for the post-Grief metagame was just Blue-Black Reanimator, which was a great call because that's what the format is now. And you were right. Grief did need to go. Grief did make the deck better than it is now. The deck did get pulled back in line a little bit, but it's still over the line, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable take. That at the very least, this deck is sitting on top of the format and has a lot of crosshairs aimed at it, and maybe that can bring it down to speed a little bit. But in general, I do agree the gap is too big between this the deck I play today and the next best thing. Don't know what the solution is, but that's not really why we're here today. Let's try and unpack the matches a little bit. The first matchup saw me being I played the Reanimator all along, obviously, and you played the Tempo deck, which is also a deck that I had submitted for our previous Legacy Gauntlet. And I didn't really know which kind of version you were going to bring. I've seen versions with or without Nethergoyf these days. But I think just the whole whenever you say tempo, you have like some kind of one-drop creature in there, right? So that was basically what I was expecting. What can you remember about that match?
Yeah, I went into the match saying that your deck is more powerful than mine, but mine is more stable than yours. If neither of us are really doing what we want to do, that favors me. And the match played out exactly like that. Game 1, when I just have normal Magic cards in my deck, you just reanimated some big idiot over the top of me and I died. And then games 2 and 3, when I had Ghost Vacuum and Fairy Macabre and Nile Spellbomb available, and you weren't really doing anything. I think our game 3, I just had a 1/2 Nethergoyf doing work for a while, and then I just aggressively...
Your hand was double Wasteland, double Graveyard Hate, double Nethergoyf off a basic swamp. Just playing. It wasn't even a Curd Ape. It was just a 1/2.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And at one point, I just popped off a Nile Spellbomb just to make my Goyfs bigger and cut the clock in half. And neither of us were really doing what we wanted. I don't want a 1/2 Tarmogoyf. You don't want your graveyard shut down. I was just sort of limping around, and the game was really ugly. But an ugly game favors the traditional Delver style 1-drop tempo deck over any other type of deck.
Yeah, I agree. One key point I also want to point out about that match, I think it was game 2, you had the Ghost Vacuum, and I wanted to find a window for my Brazen Borrower. And you had 1 or 2 draws there, and if you had the days, I would look incredibly silly because I just fetched away my second Brazen Borrower. But I was like, that was just an all-in play that I win the game if it works, but if you found the days, I lose the game, basically. It was so polarized that run out, but it was kind of cool. It was a high octane.
Yeah, and a really cool play that came up in that game was when you had 2 unknown cards in your hand, or you had 3 unknown cards in your hand, 2 lands in play, and I had Ghost Vacuum, and you had just Entombed Archon. And I was saying going into your turn, if he has 2 black sources and 2 reanimates, my Ghost Vacuum won't save me here. And then you went for the frog first, where either you just get a frog for free and get one by me, but I have to respect that, because I don't have information about your hand and you've been sculpting, and if you just go Swamp Reanimate after I stop the frog, I lose. So kind of giving you a psychic frog.
I'll add.
Yeah.
So first of all, thank you for giving me that respect. That was cool. But the reason why this play shouldn't work if you were completely on top of your game is I just surveilled a Flooded Strand to the graveyard. So I would need to natural draw land to get there with the amount of cards I had. And that should have tipped you off that this was like a scam, if that makes sense, because I would need to keep that land if I want to make that play, because I had Basic Island in play. But that's like the tiniest detail, and that's more or less my only victory today, that you didn't bite, or actually you did bite and let me get that frog. That's my only victory for today, Brian.
So you had those 2 unknown cards kicking around in your hand forever, and you could have been masterminding.
Slow rolling the C. Okay.
Yeah, so yes, if I assume that if you would have had a land, you would have played it at any point, then milling away the Flooded Strand works, or is a tip-off. But if I had that Ghost Vacuum, I think turn 1. So if you, from turn 1, are planning, at some point I need to reanimate twice and trick him into making it work, then maybe I could have read into that better. Maybe I missed surveilling away the Flooded Strand. I still probably would have let you have the frog there no matter what.
Yeah. So this is also a good point of, even though it's incredibly unlikely I can do this, the risk is not worth it because your hand is 2 removal spells at this point.
Yeah, I don't care about frog.
So the reason why this play was good on my part is, if I'm ever going to win this game, I kind of have to, I don't know, back-to-back some Miracle Guys or something along those lines, and then down the road, 10 turns from there, or 5 turns from there, the push that you no longer have because you didn't pull the trigger on the Ghost Quarter, can help me. So it's like an incredibly long-term play and unlikely to work, but I like playing my chances out, and this was very cool. I'm glad you highlighted that detail because that's probably the highlight of my night.
Yeah, that was the most interesting exchange that happened in that match for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I agree with you about categorizing the matchup as if I do my thing, you don't have a chance. If you get the game to a fair game of Magic, I'm heavily behind. So, and that's what happened in all three games. So pretty cool way of talking about that. Then up next we have the Eldrazi deck, and let's see. I'm on the play against that deck. No, that's not true, is it?
Yeah, you're on the play versus Eldrazi, and then I'm on the play with red.
There. My hand cannot beat Chalice of the Void. That's why I play Ponder looking for Force of Will, and I get Chaliced. And I actually made an interesting play that game that I wish I'd done better. So my Ponder is Surveil Land, Reanimate, and Troll. So I needed to order these cards so that if I get Chaliced, I can play turn 2 Psychic Frog. But I don't do that because wait a minute. Let me see if I can remember this correctly. I should have put the third card down as the Reanimate, because if I need it, I can brainstorm into it. But if I get Chaliced, I don't need to draw it. But then I had to go tap land and play turn 3 Psychic Frog. It was, yeah, I noticed it right away, but it was punishing. With that being said, I just got demolished in both of those games. But yeah, I still take pride in making the right play, and
yeah, that
I caught it
match,
and was able to talk about it.
that match from my side was just, you never had the piece you needed. Like that game one, my hand was Eye of Ugin, Once Upon a Time, and then 5 spells, and I have 6 looks at Ancient Tomb to Chalice you on 1.
Yeah,
I need to find any land at all if I'm going to play the game in those 6 looks.
Yeah,
and the Once Upon a Time found the Ancient Tomb right away. You didn't have Daze or Force for the Chalice. You didn't have Wasteland for the Ancient Tomb. And from there, I was able to just take over.
Oh, yeah.
And then game 2, when you had your turn 2 Psychic Frog, and I went Ancient Tomb, Eldrazi Temple, tap out for K-Command. If you have Daze or Force there, I'm just dead, and you didn't. But the Dazes probably weren't in your deck at that point. Do you board them out?
No, I don't rely on Daze against that deck because much bad stuff can happen between Soul Lands and just paying in general. So I didn't have those. But yeah, you're right. I didn't play any unfair stuff there. And when that doesn't happen, the Eldrazi deck, it's a kind of a cakewalk because you have amazing mana acceleration and just good threats. Like you're playing 2 mana Thought Dust Seers. When I say 2 mana, it's like because of the Soul Lands, right? It's like playing Tron in Modern. So and then. Actually, I play 0 Wastelands in my list, which is something that I could tell you didn't research, and I appreciate that a lot because whenever you fetch the basics, it's like we kind of play on even terms like you would at Eternal Weekend, right? So that's you might have peeked over my shoulder that I'm on Reanimator, but you don't know about the Wastelands. So that was a good resemblance of how a match would go, even though you scouted at a paper tournament.
Yeah, and what I liked about that match specifically from the showcase on my side is game 1, I combo killed you on turn 3. I dealt
I turned 3 with a Chalice in play as well.
Yeah, I turn crazy. 1 Chalice, turn 2 Glaring Fleshraker, turn 3 kill you from 16 or 18. It was some huge number. And like that, Eldrazi has that mode. And then game 2, it was kind of a scrappy wasteland you here, slowly build out my lands, play a Sowing Mycospawn, kick the next Sowing Mycospawn, some creatures die, and then I get over the finish line eventually. I played out a Wastegate Battle Mage just to put a 2/2 into play.
Yeah, the bear got in there.
Yeah, the Grizzly Bear. So we got to feature both extremes of the Eldrazi deck for people interested in playing that one.
Oh, definitely. That deck is awesome, and it has a lot of good tools. A card like Kozilek's Command really, that's just the utility you need. Like sometimes you need ramp, sometimes you need removal, you need Graveyard Hate. Great card. So yeah, that put me down 0-2, and now it's time for the mono red deck, which had you on the play. And I got Blood Moon there, Brian. I really got Blood Moon.
The moon hit your eye like a big pizza pie. And that was it. Yep.
I have so it's like my hand can beat anything but a Blood Moon because I have, Entomb Reanimate. You don't play Chalice in that deck anymore. But Blood Moon can take care of it. The good thing about this deck is I have the 4 trolls alongside the swamp. So it will not happen that often. Did you even have Blood Moons in for game 2 and 3?
No, they came out.
Neither, not even on the play.
I thought about it and then looked at what I would have to cut to make room for
Yeah.
them, and I just liked the other cards better.
Exactly. I do the same when I play mono red. Like I don't even have them in on the play, but that doesn't mean, it can take a game off of the opponent. So yeah, pretty cool, brutal showcase there of the power of Blood Moon, even though it's not necessarily good against the deck on paper, but it can be on any given Sunday. So
Mhm.
then how did I even things up here? I'm trying to think about
You just went into Reanimate, and I didn't have a hate
Oh,
piece.
right. Yeah. Your hand was pretty obviously a keep based on, Pyroblast and some 3-drops. And yeah, that was all she wrote. And then the third game, that was insane because I was facing the turn 1 Lelia, so you didn't have graveyard hate here either, but time was ticking on me, right?
Mhm.
I had the troll, but all of a sudden the Reanimate was not that exciting because of your, clock going. And I saw a miracle on my ponder, so I could set up this nice turn where did you get surprised about that turn? Because you play at the bauble, go to combat, and then I'm trying to defend with my frog. Can you talk about this from your perspective? Because I feel like you're kind of bluffing the pyroblast here a little bit.
Yeah. So I one of my bleeds right now, because I'm not in the trenches grinding with the top deck all the time, is Metamorphosis Fanatic hasn't totally sunk in for me.
Oh yeah,
Like I know the card's good. I've played with it. I've played against it, but I am
yeah,
not yet on the level of any ponder could represent a setup Metamorphosis Fanatic for next turn or the turn after. So
yeah,
like something like giving you an easy trade with a Psychic Frog and you know it's going to come right back is something I'm not thinking about as much as I should be right now.
yeah,
But I was certain that I wasn't going to win that game if I wasn't pushing damage. And
yes,
I was missing a land drop too, so I want Lelia to attack. And the playing the bauble pre-combat lets me know that my Dead Gone is going to resolve. At
yes,
least like that 2 damage is going to happen. There wasn't an instant yet in the graveyard for Pyrogoyf, so the Dead Gone is worth 3 damage. And then if you discard a creature, that's a wash in combat, but then you can exile them so that it changes the Goyf again. And I just wanted to shove and make you lose some cards
yeah.
from your hand and get the flip off Lelia. And that's really what I was just trying to get any
Yeah.
value out of my card there.
I like that a lot. And speaking of not being totally, tuned into what's going to happen, I do agree. Then you can just lean on your expertise when it comes to, oh, what's my role here? Do I benefit from the draw? Go, definitely not. I want to finish this job, right? And then you can kind of execute that plan. But from my point of view, I missed the fact that the six life that I was going to means that your double-faced 3-drop land was then a lethal spell on the following turn if you had that card.
Oh,
Where
the
you
no
can't block.
blocker. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, wow, 6 life total is incredibly dangerous. And then I was like, oh, but I have Bombardier Beat. He can only fling a 3-drop. And then you showed some high level gaming. Can you talk a little bit about that Bombardier turn?
So on my side, when you go watch my side of the video when this comes out, you'll probably laugh because I'm like sitting there like, I think I got this. And then you flip the Metamorphosis Fanatic and I'm like, this card's so stupid. 10 lifelink and it like beats Menace because it brought 2 creatures with it. And everything, like if he's at 5, he's just dead to Bombardier. But if he only, like if it was Animate dead, he was dead to Bombardier. Just, I'm like listing all the ways that your play perfectly countered mine. And then I actually went into the tank and did the combat math. Like once we layer the Lelia trigger, the menace, the lifelink, and the fling, it was just like a really cool, there's like 4 or 5 different game mechanics involved in this one attack with 2 creatures and block with 2 creatures moment. And I was in the tank for a while, mostly complaining about how perfect your flip was, but then I stopped complaining and actually thought about it and realized that there was a light bulb moment where I was like, if he blocks Lelia, he's dead. And if he blocks Bombardier, he's dead? Oh my god.
Yeah.
And then it was just like all came together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers to this. And also, when you play Magic, this is also you alluded to a little bit last time where you basically said, when I play against you, not all of my stuff will, I can't pull everything off, if that makes sense. So this is not to take anything away from you at all, because I feel like when Magic players talk about, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, that's taking away all the credit from your opponent to put you in a tough spot. So don't take the following as that. I think my correct play there is to stay back with Frog, because then I both beat Bombardiers and the card I just talked about, the unblockable thing, because that only affects non-flyers. So, and I don't think it's important for me to attack for 5 and draw a card there, but I do think it's important for me to get the turn back and attack with infinite lifelink. I think that will ice the game. Not putting you to 0, but ice the game. How does that sound to you? Is that just not, if I'm at the top of my game, what I should do?
Yeah. I think you're totally right. And I caught that after the game too. I was like, oh, I'm glad he attacked with Frog. But like on your turn, when you added 10 power lifelink on defense, then hit me for 5 or 6 or whatever it was, I'm like, I'm so dead here. And I did top deck the Bombardier after I had already exiled one, so like I got lucky there. But I mean, getting lucky is part of the game. And now knowing that the Falter also would have killed you, like that wasn't on my radar either. But knowing that would have killed you and Bombardiers would have killed you, then I think attacking with Frog was a bleed.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I want to do. I want to expose myself to as little risk as possible. So, sure, sometimes my opponent draws a mountain there, sometimes they draw a Bombardier, but I could have been in control of that situation, and that's what I strive for when I play Magic. So that's just some stuff that I talked a little bit about on my side of the table. And with that being said, you obviously played great to get yourself into that spot. So those two things can exist together.
And that's the same thing as me exiling my Psychic Frog, or not exiling my Psychic Frog in the earlier match. Like, what's the risk here of, I could just exile my Psychic Frog, look really smart, you pass the turn, or I could just beat a Psychic Frog. And in this game, you could have attacked me for 5, drawn a card, that's really cool, or you could have not attacked and definitely won the game.
For sure. We want to get those 99% situations to 100. And slam the door to the opponent. So let's see, was that game 3? Yeah, I think that was.
Yeah, that was the match.
Next up, we had the Mirror, which is something that I want to talk a little bit about, because I play this deck more or less every weekend in the challenges, and my strategy has become known to everybody, which might hurt me, because that probably becomes a leveling game about the Entombs, because I play mid-range after sideboard with no Force of Wills, and I've been talking about that on numerous occasions. But once that is a known entity, you can kind of take advantage of that. So once I saw your Entomb game 2, I didn't know what to do. Like, I was questioning every life choice ever. Like, what's your approach to this on, let's just say, your first impression level? Not necessarily that you're trying to next level me, but in general, how do you view that dynamic of Entomb being a high variance card?
I want my cards to be as good as possible in every game of Magic I play. That's generally what I'm doing. And I said in my deck tech at the start of the video when I was talking about Reanimator Mirror, and then I said during the active sideboarding for our second game, I don't want Force of Will in my deck anymore. I do like making him respect that I could just win the game if the shields come down. If you're fully juked, then me having Entomb Reanimate is still good. If you're partially juked, then we're at the same spot. Neither of us have Force of Will in our deck anymore right now. And one of the cardinal sins of the Reanimator Mirror is getting your monster reanimated by them. Like you Entomb, and then they cash it out. And that's a huge variance thing to add to the match. So I was partially juked. I think I had 1 Force of Will, 2 Entombs, Archon, no Animate Deads for game 2. And then I fully juked for game 3 after you saw the Entomb. So I think it's a moving target, and I am just, I'm not trying to hide my information here. Like, I don't care. I put all my stuff out on the internet. I am going to change my plan between game 2 and 3, even if I think my game 2 plan was right. If you saw one thing, I'm going to do something else for game 3.
Yeah, that's very reasonable, and I'm happy that I talked about that during sideboarding. Oh yeah, now high level Magic. We sit here for a minute. Maybe we switch stuff. Maybe we don't. Try and make the other person scared. That's a big part of the game. I did not adjust for game 3, but that's also a leveling thing. You could have been saying, oh yeah, this guy will stick to his plan. I'm gonna turn up the heat on him or whatever. Like, anything is possible, and I think I have to rethink like how I approach it from a match to match basis rather than just automatically sideboarding in a certain way, because the deck is such a known entity.
Yeah, I think having the fluid plans, the Reanimator deck, the Dimir Tempo deck, and the Half Duke, having all three needs to be leveraged to get every ounce of value out of the deck.
Yeah.
On level 1, I would like to be Reanimator game 1 and Dimir Tempo game 2. That's what I want to be doing. That's what I think will line up the best against most opponents. But if I think my mirror match opponent cut all their Force of Wills, maybe I just present my game 1 deck again and shove it down your throat. If you're on that level and you are confident what they're doing, then you can take some risks.
Yeah, I like that aspect a lot, because then it's like, like poker, you study your opponent, then it's very contextual, and tendencies and this and that. Like that's what I love to see, like the high level stuff. Yeah, I think we made it to the end, and I even got a win in the end. So we also have to applaud you. You crushed me. Like I didn't feel like I played my best Magic, and you definitely did your job in stressing me to make suboptimal choices. I didn't feel like I had room to breathe in many of those games, and yeah, very very. That was very competitive.
It was, yeah.
Huge thumbs up for your play here. It's not easy to play 4 different decks in a row, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was really stressful. Even just building the decks this morning before we started recording, I was like on Card Hoarder, and like it was actually like $120 more than my loan account is worth. So I had to figure out, I was like manipulating the versions I was loaning, trying to like shave $1 off here or there. And
okay.
I ended up just buying 2 Pyroglyphs myself to cover the gap. So I have to sell those now, by the way. But
you can make me wait next time between games. That'll be okay.
Yeah, there was just a lot going on, but it was cool to be the field this time rather than the stable part. And we do have to point out that Reanimator lost every round. So
that's a good one. That's one for the headlines.
Yeah, Reanimator lost every round. Obviously, the mirror, we don't always count that, but maybe and this is from, I have not played Dimir Tempo a lot. I hate Ancient Tomb decks. I'm bad with them. I'm actively bad with them most of the time. I don't know how to mulligan. I don't know how to sideboard. I'm the first to say it, and I still beat. You're in the challenge every weekend with this deck. This is your deck right now, and I beat you 3 times with 3 decks I barely understand. So the construction of these decks must be in a place where they are respecting appropriately Dimir Reanimator, just at baseline.
We're back to the same level that as before, where you'll see these, painter decks with Soul Cauldrons, black-green decks with Endurances, main deck Nile Spellbombs out of Tempo. Like we're back at the same, where you either need to be playing Reanimator or have some kind of incidental graveyard hate in order to expect to do well at a certain tournament. And that's definitely something that's scary from my point of view if I'm trying to beat the field. But it's also scary for those decks, diluting their own decks. So that's why I say incidental graveyard hate. It's not like you're main decking Leylines or Tormod Crypt. It's like some serviceable cards that aren't a barrier to draw in other matchups. But I think that's interesting. Whether that's the optimal look for Legacy, who knows? But I guess we will learn come December.
Yes, I think we are in the end games, or the end days of Psychic Frog. I think this Eternal Weekend season will go down in history as like, I remember Flash Grand Prix, you remember Initiative Eternal Weekend, remember Frog Eternal Weekend. It'll just be one of the things in the history of Legacy. And we'll remember it.
A little bit of
fondly.
Mirrored and Block Constructed written all over it, or Mirrored and Standard, I guess.
Yeah, kind of. It's, we need to ban Linsivy again.
Oh yeah, but that takes us to the end. I highly enjoyed your company as always, and the games were awesome. I think we got to showcase Legacy in a very reasonable way. We saw the ups of this deck. We also saw the flaws of this deck, and I think it's important to point both things out. A lot of stuff in Magic has to do with potential, but also how you can exploit it. And in general, I just enjoy both sides of the coin.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for doing this, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on my side, go check out Ecobaronen. If you're watching there, check out BoshNRoll. And we'll see you when we see you.